Wes, how are you? Congratulations on the film.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I've been reading reviews and commentary around it, and the film it keeps on getting called an espionage thriller, and I wonder how that sits with you.
Well, doesn't sound right to me, but I don't mind. I would say our movie is about a tycoon who has this kind of international business project, kind of a construction, essentially a construction project. He's got a dam he's going to build, a canal he's going to dig, a tunnel he's going to drill.
Rescue workers are laboring to recover and identify the remains of Jaja Korda, international businessman, maverick in the fields of armaments and aviation, among the richest men in Europe. This was Korda's 6th recorded airplane crash.
There's a little bit of an espionage element. There's quite a bit of intrigue. There's some assassination attempts. There's some terrorists. So I would say, there's enough ingredients to make that confusing. But I would hesitate to call it a thriller.
The tycoon you mentioned is played by Benicio del Toro, this larger-than-life sort of industrialist who seems to understand all the inner workings of the entire world. And I read you say that he was partly inspired by your father-in-law, and you also dedicate the film to him. So I wonder if you could tell me about him and what parts of him you brought into this character and into the story.
When you write a movie, it kind of becomes more personal as it goes along, I feel. That's what's happened to me in my experience. You sort of start drawing on the people in your life. It begins with research, and and you think you're going to tell a story that's about historical figures, some kind of mixture of people who you've never met and you've read about. But somehow the people you know best keep sneaking into it, and that's what happened with my father-in-law, Fouad, who died 2 years ago, but he was an engineer and a businessman, and he had all these different projects, mostly in the Middle East, and there are aspects of his life that sort of found their way into the movie. In particular, his organization of his projects into shoeboxes, but also his aura and his manner. He was a gentle person, very wise, very intelligent, but he also was kind of spectacularly intimidating. And he just kind of had a thing where you really don't want to mess around with this person. I mean, I felt very comfortable with him, but I could see people respond to him. And he was a great person to walk into a restaurant with because everybody just snaps to attention just because of the vibe.
I understand that you had sort of a greater idea about doing a story about sort of an industrialist tycoon, and you were just doing research into how these people have existed over time. You start to realize he sort of rhymes with this man I did know, my father-in-law, though I am sort of surprised that because I feel like my friends and I have been intimidated by far less intimidating father-in-laws.
Yes.
I'm very surprised that you didn't feel that way.
Well, because I was warned, you're gonna meet a great man who's going to be scary, who's going to scare you. That's what I was given before I met Fouad, and so I was and in fact, when I met him, we fell immediately into a kind of comfortable conversation right in the first seconds of it, and we talked about work. We started talking about work. And I was interested in what he was, in his projects that he was doing, but I was interested in how he managed people and what his partners were like. That was what our first conversation was about. And I was kind of saying, I have this and this and this. And I remember I said, what are your partners like? He said, oh, lions. They're all lions. And I met them in time. I was like, I don't know. He was a lion. I'm not sure if they were lions, but I loved that his attitude about it was, I'm a lion among lions. Yeah. Anyway, I think also probably he knew that I liked him. And everybody, that's probably a good feeling for anybody.
Yeah, Benicio does a great job at playing this character, and I know he was on your mind to do this role from the get-go. And I also know that you keep sort of a note in your mind, or even physically, of actors you hope to work with at some point. And given that this is a Canadian show, I wanted to ask about Michael Cera. How long had Michael Cera been on your list of someone you wanted to work with?
Well, I met him when he was a teenager. I met him probably 20-ish years ago or something like that. I mean, I probably met him. I met him. We went to our friend Waris's cocktail party, some cocktail party that our friend Waris was having for a tea that he'd made, and I was with Harvey Keitel, and Michael came and joined us. It had been sort of organized, I think, with agents or something, but he was a kid, and he was charming and very intelligent. And just, instantly somebody who we were all comfortable with each other. He was somebody who was comfortable joining me and Harvey Keitel, who himself can be quite intimidating. In a way, I'm surprised. I'm kind of more than surprised that this is our first film together. I feel like it so easily could have happened before, but I'm glad we finally did.
Is this supposed to be here? It was under the lunch trolley.
Oh, dear.
Watching an interview with Michael the other day, or just earlier today, actually, with Michael and Benicio and Mia Threppleton, who's incredible in this film, is sort of the nun in training daughter. They talk a little bit about the environment you create on set, and I haven't heard you talk too much about that. They talked about how, I think Mia described it as the best summer camp ever. Is that intentional for you, and does it feel like that for you as the person running the show?
My main thing is that I want to make it fun to make the movie. I feel like if we're not having fun doing it, it's not actually going to turn out that well, I think. And it's hard to make a movie. It's hard to make a movie, especially we tend to be doing something that's kind of bigger than we even have the means to do. And so I look for ways to make it efficient and fun at the same time. And a lot of that is to create an atmosphere around the actors, but just based on the sets we build and what the blocking is, things to make it fun to play.
Is it fun for you?
First of all, when I arrive on a movie set every day, I arrive tense. I don't arrive saying, "Okay, what are we doing today?" I know what we're doing today, and I'm tense. And I walk in, and my experience generally arriving on a movie set is I walk into the space and everybody stares at me, waiting for me to say what to do. Well, I don't know. I know what we want to have happen, but there's a little bit of fear every day, and then there's also, for me, every time you start doing a shot, one of the little pieces of the movie, you can't say 100% that you're going to get it. You do, but every time we're doing a take, I have a kind of tension of, are we going to get the thing we need? And the experience of making the movie is one take after another of being a little bit worried that we might not get it, at the same time that there is loads of fun. But it's just, the challenge never goes away.
I love the idea of you walking on set immediately tense.
Yes.
Also, so many moving parts, a lot of attention to detail. A lot of discipline, it sounds like. Were you like that as a child? Were you a tense, disciplined, attention to detail kid?
I think when I was very young, I was not tense at all. And somewhere along the way, making films, I was more relaxed in the earlier movies. Yeah, I was more relaxed in the beginning than I am now, because I think partly because I now know what it's like to say we didn't get the thing that day, and we didn't get it as good as we could have gotten it, and that was our chance. So now I feel like I just want to do anything I can to make sure we end up in the cutting room with something we're thrilled to have.
I guess one of the reasons I was curious about it was, I really enjoyed watching the Phoenician Scheme there. I think it was last week I watched it. And then last night, my wife and I booted up the Apple TV and plonked on Rushmore. And we had a lovely time watching it. And I think getting ready for this interview and knowing that I was watching Rushmore to get ready to interview made me watch it a little bit differently. And, because you have Jason Schwartzman playing, Max Fisher, this smart kid, very terrible student, wants to start clubs, put on elaborate plays, so gifted at making things, can't seem to excel at school. And I began to wonder, how much of that is Wes?
What's his name again?
Max Fisher.
Sharp little guy.
He's one of the worst students we've got.
When we wrote the script, me and Owen Wilson, we made the story up together, and we showed it to Owen's aunt, Owen's mother's sister. Her name was Sheila, and Sheila read the script, and she was a very good, she was very bright, just well-read, worldly sort of person, and she was a good audience, for us, and first of all, she liked it, which was great because she was somebody who would have said if she didn't,
Oh, yeah.
and that was encouraging to us. I think we hadn't shot Bottle Rocket when we first were making it, so maybe it was just the beginning of the script. But she said it's very odd because it's you and Owen made into one person. And we were like, oh, is that what it is? And I think that is what it is. It was me and Owen fused into one person. Not just our personalities in a way, but our experiences were kind of put into this one character. And there are things in that character that come definitely from me and my past, and there are things that are definitely from Owen. Anyway, Sheila could tell that instantly.
One of the reasons I'm interested in this is because, looking back at the main films you've made, but even just to mention a few here. So Royal Tenenbaums, Moonrise Kingdom, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Rushmore again, which I saw again there last night. And in this film, there seems to be an interest in the lives of young adults, kids, young adults. What do you find interesting as a screenwriter about young adults, about kids and their relationship with the world?
In this story, we've got this father who's quite estranged from his daughter, and he has his own world. He has his mission in life. He has the things that he does, which he pursues with extreme focus. But this thing is going to take over. This is going to become, from the beginning of the movie, we're starting a process of him shifting his priorities radically. I think what I'd say is that people, the age of that character, there's sometimes the daughter in the story. There's sometimes a directness. There's an urgency in the way somebody younger communicates and how they kind of pursue the things they want that gets diluted in time. And maybe that's part of what kind of appeals to me about a character like that. But I also think family dynamics are sort of so many stories, maybe most stories, have something to do with a family dynamic. Even if it's a metaphorical version of a family dynamic, you still can kind of trace it back to the childhood home a bit. So I think, one movie after another, I've had scripts that have to do with families.
Most of our stories in our society probably have something to do with our families and our relationships with our families, going all the way back. But I'm sort of struck by what you said about this character, Mia's character, that young people have this directness. Because I don't think I'm wrong that a lot of your films sort of have these direct children, like these children who speak like adults, who don't seem to live in sort of a childlike world?
You know, I mean, it's not a conscious, it's not like I make a choice to make a
Oh no,
certain kind
I
of
believe it is. I believe you have a big chart that says kids, smart kids on the top.
but you know, what inevitably happens in whatever you're interested in, for me, when you're writing it, you go into it somehow. Now, I have a daughter who's 9, so I have my newer experiences of spending a lot of time with somebody very young. But before that, I have many, many years of kids working on my movies and, you know, having roles that we've written for them. But my experience with the kids working on movies is that so often they're the most dedicated, the most disciplined. Now they have an advantage. Their brains are different, but they will learn a script. A young, you know, a 12-year-old is the greatest script supervisor you could possibly ask for, because this kid will have absorbed every word of the thing and be able to just trot it out. They learn it and they keep it. And their way on a set is often my experience is there's a lot less of, I need to control these kids and get them to calm down and focus. They're quick to go into the make-believe of the movie and stay there and keep their attention. I mean, I remember this boy, so you just watched Rushmore. There's this kid, Mason Gamble, who plays the character Dirk Calloway.
I just want to stop right now. You're a married man, Bloom. You're supposed to be his friend.
Look, Dirk, I am his friend.
Oh, yeah, and with friends like you, who needs friends?
He knew the task so well, and he was just perfectly natural, and he was a great actor. And there was simplicity to it, you know. There's something special. It's quite magical working with somebody talented like that, but that age.
I'm sure lots of young filmmakers come to you looking for advice. What's the thing you can most say now that you wished you knew when you first started making films?
I mean, there's two things. You know, but before I made my first film, somebody told me it was, you know, my producer, one of the producers' first film I made was Polly Platt. She had been married to Peter Bogdanovich. She put me on the phone with Peter, who I didn't know at that point, and he told me advice that had been given to him by Roger Corman. Take it one shot at a time. Now, this seems like an obvious thing. Well, I don't know, how else can you do it? But it was, when I started to realize how important that was. Don't try to understand the whole movie at once. Don't think about do your preparation, but when it comes time to make the movie, focus on the one thing you're doing at a time, and the movie is too big to juggle it all at once. And that was always a crucial thing. The other thing I would say is, remember that you probably aren't going to have a chance to do it again. You know, when you're doing a shot or a scene or whatever it is, this is your chance. You've got to, don't ever lose your stamina or anything like that, because this is your one chance.